What is up, sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. I'm Jeff Hartman, one of the hosts here, and not the guy with the picks. That's the guy next to me. That's Pez. What's up, Pez? How are you?
Jeff, we're rolling, Jeff. It's holidays. We got the tree. I'm a real Christmas tree, Jeff. I know we went over this last week, but this tree's killing me. My eyes have been itchier than they have been in years. I don't know if this is some sort of fur. I don't know if that's a tree or what, Jeff. Or I don't know. We don't have. Well, I guess we do have pine trees around here, but it's killing me. But I love it. I love the pain, and it's pain of gambling, Jeff. Pain of gambling. I hear we're taking some cheap shots. 3-0 Saturday, 0-3 Sunday. Jeff, it's our first 0-4. Maybe you've been doing this about a year. We like to brag a little bit, Jeff, every gambler. We have not had a losing season. We're still ahead, by quite a few games in the NFL. But 0-4, I feel relieved, Jeff. Every gambler, you have a week where you get your ass kicked, and we all love it, Jeff. Any real gambler out there watching that knows you kind of love getting your ass kicked. You don't love it, but you kind of love it. It's kind of a release, right? You're winning, you're even, you're down a game. 0-4. Fresh start, Jeff. We love it. It's going to happen. If you think about it statistically, just as likely to go 4-0 as 0-4, even when you're using data. So in a way, we hit a home run, and we're going to move on, Jeff. I mean, we're going to keep plugging along. We'll talk about these games, and we have some rationale. We were texting today. I still think that the 4 NFL games we lost, when we punched the data in our system, they scored higher than the 3 college games, Jeff. And I think if I had to do it again this weekend, I would take the same games. And I think 9 out of 10, well, maybe not, maybe 7, 8 out of 10 times, those games kind of end up the way we thought they would. And that's why it's fun, Jeff. I mean, this is what it's all about. And, gambling is it's a fun thing to do. It's probably the most healthy vice, Jeff. If you're a drugs or alcohol person, you're going to die, right? Gambling, you're just going to go broke. So, hey, what the hell? You can survive broke, Jeff. In America, you're allowed to be broke. Drugs and alcohol, forget about it. I mean, that's a bad thing to do.
So you got the Christmas tree there for those that are watching on YouTube. For those that are listening, he has a Christmas tree right behind him. And if you followed us from last week, it depends on what you're gambling on and what you got underneath that tree. If you were gambling our NFL picks, you got a lump of coal. If you were gambling our college picks, well, you got yourself a nice gift of a 3-0. Let's start with college last week. You took Boise State giving points over UNLV. They win that game. They're going to get a bye in the first round of the college playoffs. They're going to host a playoff game. We had Georgia getting points. And again, you said, how is Georgia getting points? And yet they win outright over Texas. And then Oregon over Penn State. We called James Franklin a loser of a coach on the show last week. I don't want to say, you called him a fraud. I called him. He's a big game loser. He doesn't win the big game. He's actually a very winning and successful coach, unless you're talking about games that matter the most. So what was your takeaway from those 3 games last week?
This is funny. When we punched the data, the 3 college games were pretty close, but when you put in some other kind of intangible things, I scored those games a little higher than the data. The data on the NFL games was off the charts high. But when I put my intangible kind of feelings into it a little bit, I was a little bit suspect. I mean, I have to admit, I felt great about those 3 college plays. Boise State, and this is a long shot though, Jeff, and I think right now they're getting great money in a return. We'll talk about it next week when we talk about who we're going to bet in this top 12 tournament here. But I think Boise State, they have the best player in the country. I mean, their running back is unstoppable. I think he rushed for 200 yards last week. So, when you have a player like that and you're steamrolling as a team, I kind of like that mojo. I mean, they blew they blew their doors off and they played conservative in the second half. When we get to Georgia, Jeff, that was one of the best games I've ever seen. I don't know if you watched Georgia, Texas Saturday night. I was at Leg's house, believe it or not, Jeff, our famous, beach guard, / parlay loser. We watched that game. I don't know how they didn't arrest the player from Texas who almost killed that backup quarterback, Jeff. I mean, we covered that spread, and they put a kid in. I think he had one play action prior to that. He was a sophomore, which means a freshman. Jeff, that guy was killed. That guy could have killed that guy. Helmet knocked off. They bring in what's his face? You got Carson Beck off the bench, and they win. I think we did watch the national championship a little bit. I don't expect a game in this tournament unless Georgia and Texas play again, which is possible. I don't think we're going to see a game as high level as that. Those teams, and Georgia beat them by 15. I don't get that line still, Jeff. I don't understand. Was this an emotional line? I don't think prior to the online gambling explosion, that line would have been that line, Jeff. I don't think a bookie made that line. I don't think bookmakers made it. I think that was an action-based line. How could Georgia be getting 2.5 after they blew that team out by 15? Everybody knows Georgia. I mean, forget about it. They're as talented as anybody. Was there a little bit of quarterback probably mismatch in that game? Sure. I think both quarterbacks on Texas are better than Carson Beck and whoever that backup is, Jeff. I don't even know who's going to play quarterback going forward, but a fantastic game. When we talk about Penn State, I don't like Penn State going forward, Jeff. They haven't beaten a ranked team yet. And I wonder about these rankings a little bit. And we thought this 12-team playoff would kind of make college a little bit more legitimate. I don't think it is, Jeff. We've got Alabama, who beat 3 ranked teams. Granted, they have 3 losses, but they beat Georgia, not in the tournament. We got SMU in the tournament. I mean, I hate to say it, Boise. Penn State does not deserve to be in this tournament over Alabama. Clemson does not deserve to be in this tournament over Alabama. I think Alabama, if they were in it, I'd put them in the top 5 to win this whole thing. So, I like the controversy of college. It is cool. I liked sports prior to instant replay. Controversy is fun in sports, and I think this is a controversy. I think next year we go to 16 teams. I think Nick Saban's going to be a commissioner in college football or something like that, Jeff. I think it's coming. It's needed. There's NIL money. I can't even keep up with it at this point, and I don't think anybody can. So I'm excited for the games. We're dialed in on this college tournament. I can't wait, Jeff, and I think we're going to be hitting big on this one. I think there's mismatches out there, out the wazoo. I got questions about Oregon, even though they won and they covered for us. I don't think they're a very physical team, Jeff, and I think that's going to come back to haunt you in this tournament.
Now, for those that might have just found the podcast maybe recently, and we've been doing this since last year's football season, so we've been doing this well over a year. There's certain things with Pez that you got to know, and especially with college sports. He did this with basketball last year as well. Struggle early, figure some things out, get the contenders away from the pretenders, and then dial yourself in. And remember, last year we had a great bowl season, which is getting ready to start up. We'll be talking about that next week as well. And if you think back to last year's men's basketball tournament, we killed it in the March Madness. We killed it.
Best I ever had, Jeff.
Exactly. So he's getting dialed in on these college plays. If you're just now tuning in, understand this is part of the process. And so we're going in that. But this week is kind of an off week, although it is a big game. You have one play this week in college football. Army-Navy, of course, everyone always likes to talk about the Army-Navy game. There's a lot on the line there. A lot of pride. What are you thinking about this game, Pez?
Well, Jeff, like you said, regarding college sports, it's like fishing, and I live on an island down this Jersey Beach area, Jeff. My favorite boat captain, Captain Joe, the Relentless Jeff. It's a famous tuna and whatever fish you get. He gives me free fish, so I got to pump him. But anyway, Jeff, this guy goes out there. You drop lines. Sometimes you don't catch. You got to move. You got to adjust. You can't just sit over the same wreck or the same Gulfstream, whatever the hell they're doing out there, Jeff. But So Captain Joe, Pez's picks, we do the same thing. You pick your hooks up, you move on, you keep adjusting. You adjust, what lures you're using, what system. And I do think we got dialed in on college at some point. I think we're still dialed in with the NFL, but it's not an exact science gambling. So having said that, I think what we talk about a lot is teams we're not going to bet. We're not going to bet teams that are phonies and frauds. Regarding this weekend's college football, Jeff, we've got the Army-Navy game. I've been to a bunch of them. My dad was a Naval Academy graduate. He's a Navy pilot and a Marine, Jeff. I mean, the guy's 88. He still thinks he's an ass kicker. Probably is a little bit, but I think I could take him. But having said that, Jeff, we're not going to let him hear this. He hates gambling. I mean, he's this weird Navy fighter pilot, Marine, liberal guy, Jeff. Anyway, he doesn't like gambling. So having said that, Jeff, we are taking Army in this game, laying 6.5. I like Navy a little bit. They were hot early. I think they got exposed, Jeff. And, when we punch the numbers here, this is the same thing we looked at last week. I really don't know where this line's coming from. I mean, when you check the data on these two teams, it's an incredible mismatch. You've got the 10th ranked defense in Army. You've got the first rushing offense in Army. And when you look at the data on the offense and the defense of Navy, I mean, they're ranking in the 80th, Jeff, for both. So, is this an emotional game? Absolutely. Having said that, been to this game, Jeff, The thing that the sailors and the soldiers like from West Point and the Naval Academy, they like free time. I like when I go into this game and I look at my dad. Half of the stadium is empty because the families show up and they just want to get away. They want to walk around. They want to go get a cheesesteak. They want to breathe a little bit. This is a rough time of year to be in the Naval Academy. I mean, you start to get into some pressure time. The academics is tough at these academies. So it's not the kind of game they think. I think the alumni get more into the game, and of course they do some push-ups and stuff like that. Army and Navy. How can we do better, Jeff? What a great country we have. We have people sacrificing their life, or putting their life on the line to protect our country. They get to go to these academies. It's a great day to celebrate America. There'll be some awesome stealth fighter or something flying over. End of the day, and I'm a Navy guy, got to be with my dad, Jeff. And, I like planes and boats, that Maverick movie, Tom Cruise. So, forget about it. So, having said that, Army, they showed they're legit. When you look at their results, they are knocking on the door as being a pretty good team. They did get blown out by Notre Dame. They've beaten everybody else they should. Both teams made bowl games. Probably the two best academy teams we've had in years, Jeff, since when Air Force was pretty good. So I like Army to run the ball day and night in this game. I like them to win by 20, Jeff. We love Army in this situation, 6.5. Love them.
All right. So just to let everyone understand, the Army 6.5, they're spotting Navy. The last 3 weeks, Pez, you're 10-3 in college picks.
Loving it.
10-3 the last 3 weeks. And for those of you that don't know this, go check out him on social media handles at Pez's Picks. That's Twitter and X, and also on Instagram. That's where you have some plays that are not on the podcast. Like in the NFL last week, we talked about 2 plays. You added 2 more. And so just make sure you're checking those out if you're listening to this or watching this and you want more in-depth stuff. So let's switch gears now. We leave NCAA. We'll have a lot of college stuff next week with bowl season kicking up and going into the playoffs. But the NFL is hitting the final stretch. We're entering week 15. There's a lot of games last week, 0-4. So here were your plays last week. You had the Detroit Lions on Thursday night against the Packers -3.5. The Lions have been winning, but they're not winning by large margins. They win by 3. We get screwed there. We continue. Kansas City Sunday night versus the Chargers. KC spotting 4. They win by 2, almost lose the game outright. Then you took the over on Tampa Bay and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders lose their quarterback. Tampa Bay turns the ball over a crazy amount of times. They do not hit the over. We lose that one. And lastly, you took the Philadelphia Eagles, the second half spread of -6, and they don't cover that as they almost lose to the Carolina Panthers at home. If Xavier Legette holds on to that football, they probably do. 0-4, Pez. What the hell happened?
Well, Jeff, and I, like I said, I would take these 4 games again this week. The numbers and the data was there. In Detroit and Kansas City, they both won. When your team that you bet wins but doesn't cover, you got to look at that as the right play. Detroit, I think they got exposed a little bit, and I think that defense is finally catching up about them, Jeff. I remember 2 months ago when Hutchinson went down, we talked about how Detroit, they'd have to pay for that a little bit, right? And I think that's starting to happen. It took a few weeks for the NFL to kind of change and find some openings. Detroit lost some more defensive players. So, I hope people bought half a point. Having said that, we'll take the loss. Tampa Bay, Vegas, that game they should have scored 60 or 70, Jeff. I think there were 3 turnovers inside teams in the red zone inside the 10. So we missed that one. I think the total was 47. We missed by 1 score. Birds, they win by 2 in the second half. We missed by 4 points. So, we're not making excuses, Jeff. But when your picks are within a score, or you're winning outright, but you're not covering, you're in the right neighborhood, right? You're not far off. This isn't like we took a team that got blown out by 50 that was a favorite. So, it's our 3rd losing week out of 14 in the NFL. We stand by that, Jeff. 3 out of 14 is a phenomenal season. We've had some 500 weeks, which, and as a gambler, you don't want them, but you sure want them more than a losing week. So, the way we look at it, Jeff, and we're kind of 11-3 right now in terms of weeks in the NFL. Any week you're not losing money. You might pay a little bit juice in there, but we don't count that in the gambling world. That's what we call the tax. So 11-3 in terms of losing, winning. And we like that, Jeff. And, I'm happy about where we're at. That 0-4, I don't know, kind of a relief, Jeff. I think once you drop an 0-4, it takes pressure off of you. You get back in there. It's like It's like anything, Jeff. You got to keep fighting. I mean, this isn't a 1 round battle. For the NFL, what are we on? An 18-week battle? Yeah, 18-week battle. So right now we're up 11 rounds to 3. I mean, we like that a lot, Jeff, and we're dialed in, and we're feeling better. I feel better about the NFL than I even do college, even though we went 3-0 last week. To be quite honest with you, so
okay.
Love it.
So
Jeff.
what are your plays this week? I am waiting for you to play Steelers Eagles in Philadelphia. I'm waiting for you to play that game. Are you avoiding that game or are you taking it?
Jeff, we're taking it. Should we do this last? Because I don't know.
Do it last. So when I go off, it'll be at the end of the show. So go ahead.
Sports Network, Jeff, is going to be in attendance at this game. The CEO, our owner, is taking some of the guys out there. We're going to do some live feeds, and I don't know what we're doing, Jeff. I don't know where we're going to be. I mean, I love our CEO. We're going to leave him unnamed, but I tell that guy I got a pocket of cash in my passport, so I don't know where we're going to end up, Jeff. So I'll be in Philly all weekend. On a different note, Jeff, I'm taking the family to the Elf musical at the Walnut Theater on Friday. We're going to start getting the field. We start getting built up on Friday for big games for the Eagles, Jeff. So great place. Morimoto, we're going to dinner, Jeff. Great sushi. That's the Iron Chef in Philadelphia. Let's get back to football, though, Jeff, right? So Thursday, we're taking the Thursday game.
Okay.
I love these Thursday games, Jeff. You know that. I think we've been a little bit off last year. I don't think we missed one. So we're going to get back into this. Rams at 49ers, Jeff. This is a game I think could puzzle some people. Why we're taking it, we'll explain ourselves. We are taking San Francisco, laying the 3, even though, I like the Rams, Jeff, and I think the Rams are a playoff team. I think situationally right now, this game screams San Francisco. The line screams San Francisco. When we look at the data, we've already had this matchup this year. The Rams already beat Niners. Very rarely, are the Rams going to beat the Niners twice, I think, Jeff, especially when we look at Matthew Stafford's record career, he is 2-8 against 49ers. So I didn't punch all the way back historically, but I doubt they've beaten him twice in the season in the last 10 years, right? So if he's 2-8, that's impossible. So 2-8, he's thrown 8 picks against them, Jeff, and that's a lot of picks, almost a pick a game. When we look at the data here, I'm puzzled by this. You've got San Francisco, 3rd-rated defense in the league, 2nd against the pass, which is what the Rams are going to do. When we look at the offense, I mean, we've got the 4th-rated offense. I mean, people might not know this, but San Francisco is still scoring points, 4th-rated offense in the league, up against the 27th defense in the league in the Rams. The Rams traditionally don't play well in San Francisco. And when we look at San Francisco's record at home, traditionally a very tough place to play. The weather's tough. It's a weird place to get to. I know we talk about that's the longest flight you can take, even though Rams, it's a close flight. But anyway, 4-3 at home this year for San Francisco. I think that number, they're gonna have to have a better record by the end of the season. Their home record always is better. I love San Francisco in this situation. Purdy 2-0 his career against the Rams. It's not a lot to base things on, but it's still 2-0. I love the 49ers -3. That line tells me something, right? I mean, if Vegas and they're setting this line at 3 points, they know something that people don't know. You figure the Rams coming off that big win. I'd love the 49ers in this situation, laying 3. I love them all day.
49ers actually looked like the 49ers last week against Chicago. And granted, it is Chicago, but still, it was a dominant win. They haven't had many of those this year. Nope. Maybe they're figuring things out without Christian McCaffrey. They need to get Deebo Samuel involved more. But the LA Rams, Thursday Night Football typically favors the home team. I mean, you can go back. I mean, last week, Detroit versus Green Bay. The week before that, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And Cleveland wins that game in week 12. So those Thursday night games do tend to favor the home team, which I'm not shocked that you're taking the 49ers spotting 3. So what else you got this week?
So, this is another database game, Jeff. We've got the Colts at Denver. Again, I don't know where this line's coming from. Denver laying 4. When we look at this data, it's overwhelming. I mean, Denver, this might surprise people, Jeff. We're kicking ourselves a little bit for not being a believer maybe earlier than we should have been. Coming into this game, Denver is the number 1 team against the spread. Currently, Denver 10-3 against the spread. They're covering at 77% of games, Jeff. So we're kicking ourselves a little bit. I think that I deep down don't think they're maybe as good as that record. 10-3 against the spread. I mean, how can we not take it? When you look at Indianapolis, 4-3 as the road team against the spread, 57%. They're losing by more than 2 points margin of victory. So They're actually below the belt in terms of winning. And we punch the data, Jeff. You've got the 6th-rated rushing team in the league with Denver up against a defense that they're horrible, Jeff. They're horrible. 31st team against the rush with the Colts. I mean, they're 29th overall defense up against a solid offense and a solid defense. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball to the Colts at all. And at the end of the day, Denver, another tough place to play. As season goes on, home teams tend to win more, especially with weather. Denver's, it's probably going to be cold. It always is. Mile High Stadium, got the altitude thing. You got Indianapolis. You got a dome team going outside. Numbers are bad against those teams, especially when you get into December and January. So I love Denver in this situation. The only thing that scares us, Jeff, is this line. I would like this line better if it was 6, right? I think it opened at maybe 2, and we're going to take it at 4. So we're going to take it at 3.5. Actually, Jeff, it dropped a little bit today. I love Denver in this, and I think Peyton figures out how to win this game and gets his team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean Indianapolis is explosive with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, but that doesn't mean that it's always good. There's been a lot of bad with Anthony Richardson. I believe the Broncos are coming off of a bye week, and so they're going to be rested. And they're the last game they played was Monday night win over the Cleveland Browns, which the defense didn't look as great as they typically do. But you're right, that's a much better team than people give them credit for.
8th overall defense in the league for Denver, 6th rushing defense in the league. When you make Richardson, you make that team. When you make them one-dimensional, any team struggles, and I think this could be a tough week for them. Look for turnovers from Indianapolis. Look for Denver, big win.
There you go. All right, what's the next play?
So this is a tough one, Jeff, but we have to take these tough games. Buffalo at Detroit. Not Jeff. I'm going to go against our rule last year. When we punch the numbers, Jeff, Buffalo right now, at the end of the day, I think data tells us Buffalo getting points is a better bet right now. Detroit, a solid team, but against the number at home, not as good as they have been, Jeff. They are 9-4 total against the spread. But when you look at Buffalo, when you look at this data, and you look at what Buffalo's doing, we talk about the defensive situation in Detroit. I can't see how they're stopping Josh Allen. I don't see how anyone's stopping Josh Allen, Jeff. I mean, this guy, I don't even want to say what could happen to him, but as long as he's in the game, Jeff, I think we have to take Buffalo, kind of like Georgia getting points. How could you not take Josh Allen when he's getting points right now? Currently, we're getting 2.5. I think that could go to 3 even, Jeff. We've got a defense in Detroit that is leaking oil. They've leaked oil more each week. They're currently ranked 5th rushing defense in the league. I'm not buying that, Jeff. I think they're more likely a mediocre average defense right now, especially against an offense and a Josh Allen quarterback. I just don't see how we can't take this team. And I think right now they're on a roll, and you take teams on a roll, Jeff. And, I love Detroit. Detroit doesn't need this game, though, right? I mean,
they
Buffalo, do. Well, I mean, to get the first seed, I mean, of course, but they know the
Minnesota's only 1 game back.
True, Jeff. True. But they know the Eagles are taking the first seed, Jeff. I mean, everyone's conceded that.
Gosh.
They know it, Jeff. So this game
Stop
to them,
it.
I mean, hey, I think at the end of the day, though, Josh Allen, I'll take him over Goff, and I'll take Buffalo's defense right now over the defense of the Detroit Lions right now. I think they're healthier, they're more energetic. I think last year, with the whole injury and all that stuff that happened, I mean, I think this is Buffalo's year. I'm going to call it, Jeff. Buffalo, Philadelphia, Super Bowl. I'm calling it right now, Jeff.
I can't disagree more with that Super Bowl pick, but nonetheless, what's the total on this game? Do you have that in front of you?
So the total, Jeff, and I was talking about it with some of my colleagues today.
It's got to be in the 50s.
54.5, Jeff.
There.
I mean, it's shocking to me. So,
take the over. Take the over.
I'm glad you said that, and Jeff, I have to apologize. Last week you talked about Pittsburgh, and we should have taken them. I chickened out on them a little bit, but 54.5. A lot of people are going to take the under, Jeff. I like the over in this situation too. I think why not? Why won't Buffalo air it out? Why won't they go for it? I mean, this is it. This is what they do.
Playing in a dome.
I mean, you're playing in a dome, and I think Goff might be ready for a rough game, right? I mean, when you look at Goff and indoors, might not be the data, but I think there's intangibles here, and I like Buffalo in this situation a lot.
All right. What's your 4th play in the NFL?
All right, Jeff, let's get to it.
Here we go.
We'll be at the game. That's the only thing I'm worried about, Jeff. I want to be a homer here. The data tells us, Jeff, the Philadelphia Eagles will cover the 5-point spread, Jeff. It's up to 5 points. Might be a little insulting to that Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yep.
But when you look at the data, when you match things up a little bit, the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense right now, number 1 in the league, number 3 against the pass. Going up against a Pittsburgh team, 17th offense in the league, 21st against the pass. The defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jeff, and usually it's the other way around. They've been giving up a lot of points, right? If we go back, they've given up 14, 38, 24, 16, 27. They're giving a lot of points up, Jeff. They're outscoring teams, which I don't think anybody saw coming this year. A little quarterback controversy, Fields Russell, and I think at the end of the day, Eagles more complete team. There's a lot of chatter around Philly right now, Jeff. I got Eagles fans telling me we should bench Jalen Hurts. Who the hell? What? This guy, Jeff, and I punched some stats on this week. When you look at Hurts, his numbers, Jeff, over this last run that he's been on, I mean, they're pretty telling. The guy right now, he's got a passer rating of 126 on throws that travel 10-plus yards in the air. Over this streak, he's in third in the NFL. 12 touchdown passes to 1 pick over his last 10 games. 113.7 passer rating, 4th in the league. 8.7 yards per attempt, 4th in the league. I mean, his 68.4% completion rating is 6th in the league. So did they not throw the ball out the last 2 weeks? Absolutely. I think the way that the Eagles look at the situation with quarterback, Jalen Hurts, son of a coach, if you turn the ball over as a quarterback, your team's probably losing. If you throw for 110, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns and no picks, you have a better chance of winning than if you throw for 250 and throw a pick or 2. So I love this game plan. I think it's a little bit more like the Steelers' offense used to be, Jeff. We're running the ball, ticking the clock. We're not going for 400-yard passing games. We're controlling the ball. I think it's a little bit of a reversal here. Love the Philadelphia Eagles in this situation, and I still like my Steelers, but I love the Eagles in this situation. I think they're control the ball. I think Jalen has a big, big game. I think he does.
Are you done with your slander for a second? And I'll throw some stats. All right,
give it to us, Jeff. Give it to us.
Now, first and foremost, Philly spotting 5. I think this is going to be a close game. The Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since Lyndon Johnson was the president of the United States. It's been a long time, but
it's a long time.
It is a long time, since the 60s, but still, I can't get over, and a lot of this game, in my opinion, is going to be dictated on the first quarter of the game. That against the Carolina Panthers last week was the 10th time this season that the Philadelphia Eagles did not score a point in the first quarter. They've scored 17 total points in the first quarter combined in all of their games in 2024. If the Pittsburgh Steelers can come out and somehow, some way, score, let's say, double-digit points in the opening frame, we'll say call it 10-0. I think the Eagles are going to push the panic button, even though they are a second-half team. But guess what? So are the Pittsburgh Steelers, to the point that the Steelers' defense in the third quarter this entire season have only surrendered 16 points the entire season in the third quarter. So you want to talk about good on good. You have the number 1 ranked running offense in the Philadelphia Eagles against a very good run defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can they force Jalen Hurts into obvious down and distances? The Philadelphia Eagles have surrendered 36 sacks this season. The last 2 weeks, the Steelers have 7 sacks in games against Cincinnati and Cleveland. This Pittsburgh-Philly game is going to be close. It is not going to be a blowout. And if anything, the A.J. Brown drama, they are going to try and appease this guy. Sure. And that means they're not going to give it to Saquon Barkley as much. I said that's the perfect thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Throw it all day, because if he's going to force feed to A.J. Brown, the Steelers will double him the whole time. They'll take their lumps with Devontae Smith if they have to. They'll put Joey Porter on Devontae Smith, who's a smaller guy. But still, I think that this is actually playing into the Steelers' hands. A.J. Brown pitching a fit. You got your hurt linebacker going on a radio show talking about how there's a beef there and they hate each other. Yes, bring on the Philly drama. Give me the Steelers getting 5 points. I'm not saying they're going to win outright, but give me the Steelers getting 5 all day and all night. I've seen this line up to 6.5, Pez.
Oh, well, I think at 5, Jeff, we're confident of that. 6.5, I think that's a little much. I don't think it's a touchdown game. I mean, I think that the line tells you that the data and I think the whole, when you look at the situation as a whole, when AJ has thrown these fits, he tends to come back the next week and have a huge game, Jeff.
Good.
And I think Jalen is underestimated in his maturity. I think he is a coach on the field. There are a lot of plays where there are guys open downfield. I think Jalen has been taught, and I think correctly, Jeff, to play conservatively, not air the ball out, not to throw the ball away. Last year, the guy had many picks, and the things didn't go well at the end of the year. I think the idea is, let's lean on our offensive and defensive line. I don't think there's an argument. Our offensive line is the best in the league, Jeff. Our defensive line, probably one or two in the league. So I think at the end of the day, the trenches win these games. I think we're more of a traditional Steelers team than the Steelers are this year, Jeff. And I think our defense and I think our line, I like Jalen this week. I like him to move the ball around. I think the Steelers are, and I think last week, we had a big Baltimore win. You got the Steelers after that. Carolina, who's getting up for that game, Jeff, right? As a former coach and a former player, my coach tried to tell me to get up as much as I did for the Ravens and as much as I'm going to for the Steelers. I got to look at him like he's a little bit crazy. I felt like that game, Jeff, they knew the whole game they were winning, right? I think they looked at it as we're to do what we have to do. It's kind of like it's kind of like if you're out playing with the kids, you're shooting hoops. You're not going to try and dunk on them, Jeff. They're little kids. You go up against an equal opponent, you bring your A game, and I like the Philadelphia Eagles in this situation. The other number I like, Jeff, and it's kind of reverse that thinking. Currently, the Eagles are 1-4 against the spread at home. That can't be right? I mean, they're 8-5 overall against the spread. 1-4 doesn't sound to me like how it should end the year. As a home team, I think they're going to cover this, and I can't. That place is going to be rocking, Jeff. 4:25 game. We'll be out there about 7 a.m. You go breakfast. You start tipping some cold ones. By noon, Jeff, there'll be people sleeping. They take a little nap. We go into the game 3 o'clock. I think it's going to be a great scene. I can't wait for this game. It's going to be fun. Looks like rain's holding off, which I think is good for both teams. I don't think there's going to be any excuses. Hey, it could be a Super Bowl matchup, Jeff. This could be a prelude.
Oh no, you already said it's going to be Buffalo, so it's over with. I mean, we'll
take it. I'd rather play Buffalo in the Super Bowl than the Steelers. I'll tell you that right now. I think Tomlin's a tougher guy to beat in the playoffs, but I love it, Jeff.
You got to look at I'm trying to find this stat right now. That you got to look at the Steelers record. And Mike, here it is. The Steelers are 5-0 as underdogs this season, and they've won 7 straight games outright as underdogs dating back to last season. Mike Tomlin is 60-32-3 against the spread in his career as an underdog.
So. Yeah, I would like that, Jeff, if that was an Eagles stat. When you're a team like the Steelers right now, who are airing it out, right? I mean, this team's scoring a lot of points, but they're giving up a lot of points. I mean, they're giving up points like we haven't seen in a long time, and they're winning games, but I think that does come back to haunt you at some point.
Every now and then there's a game. Think back when Pittsburgh played Baltimore. Baltimore was leading the NFL in points scored. They were the number 1 rushing offense with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. The Steelers stymied their running attack, and they held them to 18 points. So the one thing the Steelers do better than any team in the NFL, and I know that the Eagles have only turned the ball over 11 times this season, the Steelers lead the NFL in takeaways.
Sure.
They're taking the ball away better than anyone else. This could be a great game. I'm really excited for this.
I'm pumped too, Jeff. In two similar quarterbacks. Russell at a different point in his career, but a mobile guy, a guy that's a little bit undersized, but a smart guy. Yeah. And I think we have 2 smart gamer quarterbacks. I'll give the coaching nod to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sirianni, the guy's a lunatic, but Fangio, Jeff, I think that's the best defensive mind in the league right now. This guy, and I know people talk about this first quarter. The Philadelphia Eagles are making better in-game adjustments than I've ever seen, Jeff. And and I know the Steelers do this too, but I like Pittsburgh's a little bit, I think, more predictable as an offense than the Philadelphia Eagles. They can run it. Jalen has proven he can run it himself, and he can also throw the ball. I mean, this guy's one of the best quarterbacks, 20-plus yard passing in the league this year. I think we're going to see a lot of that, Jeff. Fill the box. Go ahead, Pittsburgh. AJ, Devontae Smith is back. Got some rust off last week. Jets going all day. I love it, Jeff. I think we're putting up a big number on them. I love it. I can't wait.
Okay, we'll see. But I'll tell you that there's a reason, because I was invited to go to this game, and there's a reason why I declined. I would not be able to keep my mouth shut in Philadelphia.
Well,
I have no interest in being there with those freaking lunatics in the link because it's just not a safe environment for me. So I'm just going to stay at home. I'll stay in Maryland.
Okay.
And there you go.
Coach KT Smith will be there, Jeff. I don't know if he's going to wear any,
he said he's going to have a hat on that is a Steeler hat.
Okay.
So there you go.
Jeff, a lot of the management in the Fans First Sports Network are gigantic mammals, Jeff. These are large men. I have no fear. We have a couple former police officers going who are even larger men. So it's going to be a fun day. I haven't seen anyone at an Eagles game getting beat up in a long time, Jeff. Since we moved to the link, it's become a rich guy thing. At the Veteran Stadium, Jeff, I wouldn't be worried about you. I tell you can't do that, buddy. But at this game, I mean, forget about it. We've got rich people at this game, so it'll be fun. It'll be rocking. We'll send some cheesesteak pictures to you, Jeff. I can't wait.
Thanks. I appreciate it. All right, Pez, anything else, or is that those are your four plays?
4 plays. We're going to look at Monday night, Jeff. We have 2 Monday night games, so of course we're going to have something. Going to check the injury report with Vegas and the quarterback situation and kind of like, but we'll save that for after the week. Great call last week on Scheffler for you, Jeff. I mean, that's a W for Pez's picks. You called him. Why didn't everybody put $1 million on that guy? Right? Well, he is in a different world, Jeff. I mean, what are we talking about with this?
Plus
with this
270 though for golf odds to win outright. It was a 20-player field. I'm like, shoot. If you had plus odds for Scotty to be a top 10 or top 5, you could have made a lot of money there too.
I mean unreal. You should have bet the car on it, Jeff. I mean, I should have too. Christmas. Things get tight around Christmas. And I apologize last week. We got winners this week, Jeff. Christmas presents, Hanukkah presents, whatever you need.
There you go. All right, Pez. It's been a fun show. We'll see how this thing plays out this weekend.
We'll be talking.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.
All right, later.